Effort is abstract. The most effort is the least effort. The hardest thing to do is nothing at all. There is no effortless path. Finding peace takes the most effort, or the smartest effort, and there can be no effortless existence without peace. So, to be effortless means you've invested significant effort into understanding what very few ever do. The so-called masters, the spiritual leaders, the gurus, they arrive at these levels of consciousness where the ego is overcome, but for most, the funhouse of the ego remains a mystery. If we view our egos as thin sheets of plastic or like saran wrap covering an ocean, most of us spend our lives on that thin layer of existence without ever diving into the real experience of life. It's like life is always being kept at arm's length. So we spin up effort to protect that thin layer of existence rather than allowing ourselves to be guided to fall into the ocean of our lives, as it were, and surrender. To give up effort, really, which, as I said before, is the smartest kind of effort and terrifyingly difficult for all of us, to let go of what makes you, you, or me, or to let go of the fear, concern, and expectation surrounding it, because action itself isn't really the benchmark, is it? Think of the actions in our daily lives. They range from laying on a couch, eating corn puffs, to running marathons in the desert or somewhere. And no matter the movements, it's the state of mind within that matters. It's the level of concern that is the gauge as to what our efforts mean and how much of the ego they really are or not. After all, sitting in a room in stillness with crossed legs for hours is the epitome of effort, really, whereas a normal kind of hustle and bustle day is average on the effort scale. I suppose what we are looking for is a kind of effortless effort, an effort that isn't concerned or doesn't try too hard, an effort that is detached from results and enjoys the fun of it all, an effort that isn't wrapped up with our identity except loosely, like a comfortable old t-shirt rather than handcuffs or shackles. We can see how this effortless effort would lead us to superior work for a multitude of reasons. For a start, longevity. Why do people quit? I guess many reasons, but one of the biggies has to be out of disappointment or unfulfilled expectations. This would mean we've attached concepts about ourselves to our efforts that don't belong there. Concepts about approval from the outside, the measuring sticks of social media, and success's external results. Society pushes us to claw for these things, to value these things, to measure the importance of our beings to these things. And the result for most is a disaster of paralysis. The word unrealistic is often next door neighbors with the word expectations, and that's because expectations are almost always unrealistic, coasting on the saran wrap version of reality, wrapped in fear, concern, and limited self-concepts on the thin layer of that non-reality, taking on instructions from demons who even set us up with unrealistic expectations to be destroyed in the aftermath of our failure to achieve them. Imagine pursuing the endeavors of our hearts without the ego's expectations. The long expanse of time and development we would then bestow upon us, the depth of creativity arriving from the ocean of our being, the limitless nature we would exist in. And as our lives are built on time, and as there is no effortless way through time, why would we ever quit singing the songs of our hearts anyway if we weren't identifying with the demonic egotistical traps of society and our world? If we weren't shattered by the negative thoughts that arise from the saran wrap levels of life, if we allowed that version of ourselves to die, we could fall into the depths of who and what we actually are, and truly be unconcerned and at peace as we progressed and evolved, or rather allowed our true natures to appear in our actions, both creative and otherwise. What else are we going to do with our time? We either drive ourselves crazy with superficial effort aimed at the reaction of a crazy and corrupt world, or we give up and destroy ourselves with addiction and escape, surrendered to the demons who have long angled for our souls, or we overcome the ego a bit, using it like a tool here and there when appropriate, but operate from our depth, where we are mostly unconcerned by things like results, and where our timeline stretches into the infinite, and where the motivations of love and purpose easily dominate the motivations of fear. Or we arrive at the epitome of effort and sit cross-legged in a room humming a mantra or being in a permanent state of prayer. But I'm going to go for choice 3, with plenty of prayer thrown in for good measure. There is no escape from effort, though. There is no effortless existence here. Giving up takes the most effort. Keep going and drop concern on the side of the highway. We are human beings, not human doings, so the cliche goes. But the difference between doing and being is more about our state of mind than the actions that we take. If we can pursue our visions from a state of being rather than doing, we can imbue our work with more freedom and depth, as we have access to those states where forgiveness, being, and letting go reign supreme. Anger, fear, resentment, and worry wraps us in the saran wrap of life, where we become demonic mummies of a past we can't seem to overcome. But when we let go, when we forgive, when we pray for our enemies and surrender expectations and the motivations of the ego rooted in fear, we set ourselves free to explore the depths of our soul's gifts without limitations or judgment, or the things that cause us to give up unfulfilled. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know how you guys overcome the ego. The ego really is our enemy in the department of doing what we want to do, of pursuing our dreams, even though a lot of times people wrap up, the ego gets wrapped up in our dreams, obviously. So it's about overcoming the ego, using it like a hammer and a nail when necessary, but outside of that, trying to get more into the depths of who we are, the voice of God and all that. Tell me how you do it in the comments below. Thanks for watching.